How will the Bengals solve their offensive line issues this offseason? Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com, and that is the question that, well, many of us are asking after Super Bowl 56. But before we dive into it and we hear from NFL Network analyst, draft analyst, Daniel Jeremiah on a couple of topics, I have to start with what this week is. It's Combine Week, and we're going to be in Indianapolis this week covering the NFL Combine. Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin both talk on Tuesday. We will be there. We will have the latest for you. So this is why you subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because CBT, Cincinnati Bengals Talk, we got you covered for all things Bengals, all things offseason right here on YouTube. So ring the bell as well because you never know when we're going to go live or have the latest on the Bengals, especially with free agency and so much more going on. But that's neither here nor there. What is here is the Bengals offensive line and their need to fix it. And obviously this week, this NFL Combine is going to be a big week as they evaluate prospects, not just offensive line prospects, but prospects at every position in their quest to improve and upgrade their roster. And it's interesting because we're going to focus a lot on free agency, and regardless of what the Bengals do in the draft, they need to upgrade their offensive line in free agency. But let's focus on the draft a bit because Tyler Linderbaum is the draft's top center. And there's a wide range of invariance of where people think he could go in this draft. He's considered the best center in this draft class. He's considered arguably the second, third, fourth best offensive lineman, depending on where you look. He's Pro Football Focus's 12th ranked prospect, to give you an idea. And yet, Daniel Jeremiah, who's as plugged in, as tied in, as as much of a draft insider as you could imagine for NFL Network, talked last week, and he thinks there's at least a chance that Tyler Linderbaum could fall to the Bengals at number 31, which is a dream scenario, regardless of what they do in free agency, even if they do sign a center, even if they do add, 5 new starting offensive linemen, and that's not going to happen. But even if they did, if you could get Linderbaum, sign me up. Here's what DJ had to say about the Iowa center.
When you talk about Linderbaum, he is going to be really one to watch on draft day because, again, this is a player, just purely as a player. He is my 19th player, I believe, at this point in time. Yeah, I mean, he is a good player. He takes great angles. He's nasty. He's got unbelievable, football intelligence. Talk about having FBI. He's got it. He's everything you want from an intelligence and a toughness standpoint. There's just times where he gets a little bit of size on his nose and he struggles a little bit with that. So here's where the challenge of trying to slot him in. He's a center only who really kind of fits the outside zone teams who really want a center that's athletic and can move. So if you don't need a center, you cross all those teams off. And then if you aren't in this type of a system, which is pretty popular now with all the McVay and Shanahan tree heading out all over the league. But if you don't run that system, you're not going to like him as much. And then you have a little bit of the ghost of Garrett Bradbury, who's a guy that I quite honestly loved coming out of NC State and who's ultra athletic. And he went to one of those teams that runs all this stuff, but his issues with power and size have carried over to the NFL. And I think that, that could scare some teams a little bit on Linderbaum. So while I think he's a fantastic player, it's hard to slot him in. So to say, there's no way he's too good, he wouldn't slide down to where the Bengals are picking. I don't think we can all, say that's a lock.
Linderbaum isn't perfect. 6'3", 290 is what he's listed at. He's not expected to have really long arms, which was an issue, obviously, for Billy Price. But, man, people just think he would be dominant in this Bengals zone scheme because he's so athletic, because the way he moves, because his technique and everything that goes along with it. And so if you can steal him at 31, and I don't know if he's going to make it there. It seems a bit – you look at these mocks. I saw a mock this week where he's going to the Ravens at 14. And so, maybe he falls to the mid-20s, but does he fall all the way to 31? That seems like very wishful thinking. But if someone like Daniel Jeremiah says it's possible, and even in his recent mock, Linderbaum went in the 25th or 26th. It was in the mid-20s. So even then, he's gone. But stranger things have happened. And what better way to, T. Higgins fell to 33. Okay, I'm not going to rule anything out. Teams picked Jordan Love and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Patrick Queen over T. Higgins. All three teams that could have used a wide receiver, right? In the Ravens, Packers, and the Chiefs. Those three teams would easily trade those guys for T. Higgins right now. So you just never know with the draft. And again, depending on how he measures, which we'll find out this week, and we'll have it for you here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, there's at least a chance, which would be pretty cool. That being said, if they don't get Linderbaum, how deep is this draft class of offensive linemen? It was interesting because Jeremiah said something that really caught my eye. I wrote about it for allbengals.com, but if you didn't catch it there, here it is. You can hear it. And by the way, both of these clips are conference calls with the media. He's just answering. He went on for almost 2 hours last week, answering questions from media all across the country. But Daniel Jeremiah thinks the Bengals can upgrade their offensive line, their starters, in the mid rounds of this draft. That they can find upgrades, which is good. And I'll tell you why. But first, let's hear from Daniel Jeremiah.
Just in terms of my, personal list, there would be probably taking somebody outside of that range, but you're drafting starters. So I don't know necessarily say that they're reaches. I've kind of gone through some of those guys. The one name I had going, I think right before them, I think I had him going to the Dolphins. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm telling you, the train, the Tyler Smith train is getting ready to take off. I think that probably takes off as we get to the combine. From Tulsa. And again, he's 6'5", 332 pounds. He's somebody I think could play guard if he wanted to. It'd be hell on wheels as a guard, but played tackle. So that's one I think that's really, really intriguing. But the good thing with the Bengals where they are right now, they've had all this success. We know they have the needs on the offensive line. They're going to be able to find upgrades of the offensive line throughout this draft. They're going to get players in the third, fourth round in this draft that are better than some of these guys that they trotted out there and started in the Super Bowl. So they're going to have a lot of opportunities to address that position.
Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, come on, James, they cannot wait till the mid rounds to address offensive line. Okay. I don't know if that's true, but to me, they can't wait until the draft to address the offensive line. But if they address it in free agency, and you feel much better about their offensive line, well, then that's great, because then you don't have to force it at 31 if Linderbaum isn't there or one of these other, Zion's not there, some of these other offensive linemen that could be there. And we'll have a draft primer that gets you all set for that after the combine, and throughout this week, we're going to have more on that as far as these prospects, because then we're going to go face first into free agency and, before we know it, the draft will be here. But to me, if you can put yourself in a position to take BPA, best player available at 31, best player available in round 2, best player available round 3, round 4, well then, yeah, you might end up with an offensive lineman that can start, that can be an upgrade, but you're going to have depth because you've addressed it in free agency. So you're not banking on these guys. Even a guy like Tyler Linderbaum. What if he's there at 31 and they've already signed Ryan Jensen? I'm not against that. I'm not against that one bit, baby. That dog will hunt. You know why? Because depth is important. And that doesn't mean that you don't want Linderbaum out there. And, you make that work. And that's rich people problems, right? That's first world problems. And the Bengals are an 8th, 9th, 10th world country, certainly a third world country when it comes to the offensive line and how they've evaluated over the past couple of years. So, yes, you take that, you accept that, and you'd roll with it. But the key is, and I know you felt it, I know you've said it, or you said it to yourself as you're watching this video, there's no doubt they cannot wait until the middle rounds to address this offensive line. They have to go at it in free agency. And even if they do that, offensive line should be in play at every pick, at every stage of the draft. It doesn't matter, because that's what derailed this team in 2021. And it can't derail it in 2022 or 2023 or beyond. You have to put together a foundation of offensive line play, a certain standard or certain level, and they're just not there right now. And so they're going to have to establish that. They did that on defense over the past 2 off seasons. And maybe we look back and we say the same thing, right? Where that's the case where they bring Riley Reef back, let's say, but this offseason they go after 3 other guys in free agency, or 2 other guys in free agency, 2 starters and a depth piece. And then they add more depth in the draft. And now suddenly you look at the unit and it's like, oh, they have a chance to be good. Much like the defense, how quickly they improved. It seemed like overnight, but there was more steps and more process to it than we realized at the time. So it's 5 spots. It's not 11 like it is on defense. So you're not going to have as much turnover, as many, just spots to fill, but they need to fill those spots. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do this week. At the Combine, we'll have it covered there. We'll have Zach Taylor. We'll have Duke Tobin comments right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So buckle up, strap in tight, and get ready, because I think that the Bengals, and by the way, the other thing with Daniel Jeremiah's comment about the depth of this draft, I think that says a lot about the starting offensive line for the Bengals in the Super Bowl compared to, what's in the middle of this draft versus praising this draft. Obviously, I don't think the NFL views the Bengals starters, most of their starters at least, in the trenches in that Super Bowl, to be quality. And we saw that on the field throughout the playoffs and throughout the season. So we're going to have you covered all off season long. It's a one-stop shop for the latest and greatest Bengals news. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.